as we all know, Superman Legacy, or now titled Superman, is the first major project of, DCU Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. However, everybody's forgetting about this. Okay? Everybody. But I'm not. I read this comic, Creature Commandos, okay? Now, here's what you need to know about Creature Commandos. If you don't know anything about them, don't worry. I'm going to simplify this as much as possible, and we're all just going to have a lot of fun because it's not that hard to understand. Creature Commandos is a bunch of misfit characters, and with these characters, they were made for a project called Project M. Project M is short for, you guessed it, Project Monster. Now, for this cast of characters in this iteration of the comic, you have Frankenstein, you have a robot, you have Dracula, you have a werewolf man who can't control when he can turn into a werewolf or when he turns back into a human. You have this other character who falls in love with these creatures, and then it's like, I want to be a Creature Commando too, because for some reason they resonate with me. And that's Dr. Medusa. You guessed it, her hair turns into snakes. It's a whole thing, right? And then you have the generic soldier character that's mean to them. It is their leader. Kind of like with Suicide Squad. It's a whole thing. You could see why they chose Rick Flag Sr. for the DCU property. Now, with this story, my concern about it is that it's way too out there for everybody. Like, I've read this, chat, okay? Which, by the way, if you're watching this video, this is a live stream. We're talking, we're hanging out. You guys should check out my stream. Free plug, I know. But when it comes to this, my concern is that, when it comes to James Gunn and it comes to James Gunn's properties, James Gunn is very, like, a James Gunn movie when you see a James Gunn movie. If I told you, describe Guardians of the Galaxy to somebody who has never seen Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to say something along the lines of misfit characters, there's a lot of crazy music, a lot of great action scenes, fairly stellar writing, there's a lot of memorable moments, a lot of emotional moments. You're not going to think of Pulp Fiction. Like... that, like, I don't know how else to say it, because when I think of vampires, when I think of Dracula, when I think of Frankenstein, I don't think of James Gunn. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I don't. Like, when I look at this, right, my concern isn't how can James Gunn and DC Studios sell this to the casual audience. My concern is, will the casual audience even care to give it a try? Because unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, and unlike, what is another property? The Suicide Squad, I don't think anybody, and I mean anybody in the casual audience, is going to see vampires, Dracula, this robot character, which, by the way, side note, I don't understand why everybody in this comic series suddenly is in love with a robot. Like, sure, I could understand if someone was to tell me, like, oh, well, for its time, we're talking about a bunch of characters that are fighting in the middle of World War II, which, by the way, yes, that is a true thing. The whole focus of Creature Commandos is, let's make these monsters because we can't win this war, and let's just use them to win this World War II for us. That's the whole focus. Like, I don't know if there's gonna be some level of intrigue when it comes to this, because I'm going to be honest with you. I wrote notes down. I have the notes in front of me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be one of those content creators that's like, oh, I know everything I'm talking about. I don't. I'm a casual just like you. I watch the movies just like you. I am one of you. But except I did the work and I read this for you because no one else cares about Creature Commandos. You're welcome. So here's the thing. In my notes, right, I have specifically this point, and I'll probably screen capture this or throw this onto the screen for you. Creature Commandos is a bit serious, a bit dramatic, and a bit too weird to the point where I think James Gunn might need to James Gunnify the show for it to work. There might need to be a great soundtrack for it to uplift an otherwise action-packed show with core elements that Gunn has yet to attack. And that's what my concern is. Can James Gunn take what he's done with the Suicide Squad, take what he's done with Guardians of the Galaxy, and manage to actually make us care about these characters? Because I'll be honest, in the comic, I like these characters. Frankenstein, who says nothing. I want you to know, Frankenstein, this character right here, I'll throw it in the edited version of this video. Frankenstein, the character who says nothing. He's the best character. Besides the robot, which, where is this robot? Where is he? Is he even on the cover? No, he's not on the cover, of course. There's a robot, okay? I don't understand this comic because this shouldn't work, but there's a robot. His name was like G.I. Robo, whatever, and everybody's in love with him, as I said, but he's so cool because he just does things. Like, the whole world could be drowning, and the robot will jump in to drown, and everyone's like, yeah, I love this robot. It's hilarious. But the whole thing is, the reason why I say this is because this comic is so out there. And that's where this comic strives the most. When it comes to Creature Commandos, when they're out there going under the sea to go talk to the people of Atlantis 2, yes, Atlantis 2, that's when this moment, or the moments in Creature Commandos, the comic, are the most memorable. Because even here, right, I have written down, I love constant inner discussions between Patchwork, who's Frankenstein, and Dr. Medusa, as he very clearly loves her and she doesn't realize it because he can't say anything. But what I love the most is that every story that's absurd, like when they fight a goddess named literally Inferna, that is the best part of Creature Commandos. While I understand these characters are primarily stuck or focused on World War II, I do think, and I have this written down, which is why I'm reading it, if the show leans too heavily into that, it'll be a lot less fun than it could be. Gunn leaning really heavily into the absurd things that these characters experience, like, and this is true, okay? This is true. I can't believe I have to clarify this next statement, but everything I read here happens in this comic. I wish I was lying. Literally, the Creature Commandos fighting pterodactyls, sea monsters, Creature Commandos trying to convince the goddess Inferna to let Frankenstein go, and so on, are where these characters shine the most, unlike the other World War II stuff. The non-absurd stuff can work, but I prefer that to be the early on stories, so Creature Commandos could strive in the end. For instance, they fight brainwashed children. These creatures fight brainwashed children. I wish I was lying. I don't understand this, but my whole thing is, and I have all of this to say, right? What you need to know the most about Creature Commandos, and what you need to know about this upcoming show, which is different slightly in terms of the cast of characters compared to its comic book counterpart, it's a very weird property. I can see why they want it to be the opening act of DCU Chapter 1's God and Monsters, because for all intents and purposes, it's gonna be a weird show. It's gonna be out there. It's gonna be very action-packed because there's a lot of action-packed moments in the comics. There's a lot of fighting. More often than not, the Creature Commandos are just like, yo, we're gonna go fight this army. We're gonna fight this goddess. We're gonna fight these brainwashed children. Dracula, go fly and attack this pterodactyl that's attacking us. Or G.I. Robot, or whatever his name is, G.I. Jake, I believe. Go fight this sea monster, and he just swims into the ocean on command. Like, that is the type of absurdity. And then throughout it all, the best parts of this comic, right, is when they're bantering with each other, because they roast each other. They make fun of each other. And that's what I like the most. Like, you almost feel bad that they're monsters. You almost feel bad that they're with this terrible leader who does not treat them well whatsoever. You feel bad for Frankenstein, who's in love with Dr. Medusa, but he can't say anything. You feel bad, okay? You laugh at them. You laugh with them. You love all of the action moments. But when the comic is not doing that, and if the show doesn't lean heavily into that, then I don't know if DC Studios is going to be able to sell everybody on what I otherwise, I guess, like, I wouldn't say love, you know, misfit characters like the Creature Commandos being the opening act to DCU Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. And it doesn't help that Superman, on his birthday, had to announce the crest and had to announce the logo and the name change for the upcoming movie, because all of that has made people forget that Superman, the movie, the one that comes out next year, not the one from 1978, I think that's correct. If it's not, I will fact check it and put it on the screen. Is overshadowing these lovable, ridiculous, absurd Creature Commandos characters. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you have any opinions about the Creature Commandos, I will do my best to answer your curiosities or opinions, because just like the rest of the people who watch this channel, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying my best. I hope y'all enjoyed this.